Morning, you guys. We are going to do our Activity C today. So what we're going to look at today is what is called the Wilson cycle for growing oceanic basins. So we've looked at our different types of plate boundaries. So we've got divergent, we've got convergent, and we've got transform. So today we're going to look at more of the divergent and convergent ones using the Wilson cycles. So what I'd like you guys to do first, make sure you go to Activity C, Tectonic Cycles. I'd like you to read through these, and essentially what we're going to do is we're going to look at what is called the Wilson cycles from a geologist who started this theory on how different ocean basins come to be. So he broke it up into 6 different parts. So we have embryonic. That means there is a stretching and thinning of some continental crust. So things like that are happening right now in the East African Rift. There is some spots even around Death Valley in the U.S. that is experiencing some stretching and thinning. So maybe it's a start of an embryonic stage. The second one is juvenile. It's where a narrow ocean basin has opened up by a spreading ridge with a divergent plate boundary right up underneath. So it's continued to stretch, thinner, and now we have a small ocean that's actually in there. The third one is mature. And you're getting actually a large ocean basin at this point with still a really large divergent plate boundary right in the center. And the next one is declining. We actually have now some subduction zones occurring on one end, and the basin is closing up. And terminal means that there is no more ocean basin, that we now have continent-to-continent collision. And a stable craton is a block of continental crust that's just all equal elevation. So when we look at that, we can kind of look at, maybe here's that stable craton, right? Australia is a perfect example of this. It's roughly about the same elevation all the way through that continental crust. And what can happen is you can start experiencing the embryonic stage, where now, where this once stable craton was, you can have a divergent plate boundary starting to form. And because of this pushing of magma up through the mantle and up through the crust, now is causing those two plates to diverge. And new lava is coming up, creating new oceanic crust, which is basalt. And it's pushing that old continental crust further out. Once it gets thin enough, you can get into this juvenile stage and water will actually start rushing in. And so now this low-lying area, if it connects to another ocean, it's going to rush in and it's going to fill this void. So essentially you're creating a new small sea. An example of that would be the Red Sea. And if this continues to grow and grow and grow, it can get larger and larger and larger, and eventually you can have a mature stage, such as the Atlantic Ocean. And if you guys remember off of our activity A and B, we don't have the edge of the North American plate is actually the mid-Atlantic ridge. And this actually shows that once North America and Europe and Africa and South America were all together as a stable craton, and it began to go through the embryonic stage, and it started this divergent plate boundary, and now we are all the way into this mature stage where it's continuing to grow. So the Atlantic Ocean right now is actually continuing to grow. The next stage would be eventually there might be a subduction zone. That oceanic plate might run into another one and subduct underneath. So, and this would be declining, and this would be similar to the Pacific Ocean. Eventually we'll get around to terminal as the declining continues to pull, because it's going to pull at a rate in which it's faster than it can actually create. So eventually it's going to pull it into another tectonic plate, making a terminal, and then we'll start getting large mountains in this region. So your task is to go using those 6 and label each one. It's kind of like a nice little matching. So you got to tell me which stage it is and the example. So make sure you use our online notes because I just gave you examples for each one of those. And the next, I'd like you guys to research a little bit, how did the Atlantic Ocean basin come to be? So remember, Pangea was together. That's when North America and Eurasia and Africa and South America were all together. And you can follow those stages. So remember, we were stable, and then we were embryonic, pulling apart and thinning. And then as the divergent plate boundary began to grow, the ocean basin begins to grow, and it opens up into a mature stage, which it is today. So using those properties, I'd like you guys to answer these questions. If you have any issues with them, please let me know. I can go over it a little bit more for you, but I'd like you guys to do a little research too, okay? So just let me know if you need anything on that, and I will be more than happy to help you. Take care. Bye-bye.